So, as I promised, we're back for the final station. This is Magnus Jump Point and the Magnus Jump Point Station. As always, this is the cloud around them. We're starting to see a pattern here where all three of the jump points have very fascinating, unique anomalies with a lot of scary storm clouds and space weather to abound. Now, one of the interesting things about Magnus is it's quite a ways away from everything. And ships that are very small, you're going to want to be mindful of just the sheer distances we're talking about. We're talking about like over 100 million kilometers between the Terra and the Magnus jump points, for example. And when you land at the anomalies now, you get a second beacon, which is at the stations. So if you watch my first video about Pyro, and by the way, we're going back to Pyro at the end of this video. Use the chapters to jump ahead if you want to see the more finished Pyro now. The effects are much nicer. Same station, same channel, different effects. So very different from last Saturday when we started doing the large community groups that were pushing through to get to these. Before the beacons were applied, before the effects were applied, before we could even get to Magnus and Terra. So I've covered Pyro before all the good, the more finalized effects. Did Terra with more finalized effects, now Magnus finalized effects, and then at the end of this video I'm going to add Pyro finalized effects too. I don't like clickbait, I don't like making you string along. Whatever I have, I provide. So the station is smaller than the Pyro station, and as I said in the Terra video, I think that this is kind of a trend. They're very big stations, don't get me wrong, but these stations are more of like inter-UEE space stations between systems that are all part of the UEE empire and part of the human empire that's there, and not the edge of the edge of civilization, which Pyro is. So if you want to get a taste of like a well-defended station and you want to see what that looks like, go to the Pyro jump point. And that's the largest station, one of the cooler ones. Now, when you go inside, it's not really that different, but still, it's impressive from the exterior. It's also good for machinimas and for good glamour shots. This is how it looks coming from Magnus, coming back into the system of Stanton. Now, I will note that these placards are double-sided, which is the same stuff we've seen before. And that's fine. That's fine that they are changing the system into this, I would call it simplified jump point arrangement. It still remains to be seen how it's going to look when you jump into Pyro. But it seems like when you jump back into Stanton, you're in a secure, you're right outside a massive space station with customs, and they're very strict. You do not see customs notifications at Terra and at Magnus, but you do land in the same type of safe. There's a big station nearby type environment, but it's just not as pronounced. Once again, you're moving between lawful systems within an empire versus a border system of the Empire. So it's just a really interesting dynamic there. There's also NPC ships that are whizzing by. You'll hear the noises and such. They tend to be small ships, and they're moving pretty dang quickly. There may be some speed that will come off of the jump point when you use it, when you come through an anomaly. But some of the ships I noticed were very, very, very small, and maybe they're just patrol craft, or craft that are scanning people flying around and such, or they're drones, dare I say it? I don't know. I have to sit here and really just like lock on each one and figure out what the heck they are. But at least the last time they've explained jump points, you need a jump drive in order to go through them. It's not your quantum drive. And apparently only larger ships have these jump drives. It takes up some space. It's an extra module. It's actually it's pretty arduous for the craft to have this thing, and that's why ships like the Liberator are so critical to act as a quote ferry end quote to Pyro, as the developers described it, because it is jump drive equipped. The Carrack here is jump drive equipped. The 890 is jump drive equipped, and then other ships either have them or they don't, or my suspicion is they're going to add jump drives to a significant amount of ships, but what they're committed to is these large quasi-capital and capital class ships and such. So your Polarises, your Odysseys, they're going to definitely have jump drives. But when you get to ships that are a little bit smaller, it remains to be seen, or it's still up in the air, like even if it's on paper has one, because that module has to live somewhere. So they have to give up cargo space, they have to give up something else to fit it. You will note that I'm using the jump drive straight from here. I left this in because my thought was I wanted to show how easy it is, at the moment at least, to just whip through here, so you don't have to have this long journey through those those advertisements and such. If you're all business and you're just trying to get system to system or get to the station, refuel, and keep keep traveling, or more importantly, get to the armistice protection of a station, it should be pretty quick. And you can see me speeding up here, and then I edited it out, but you can. It's very quick to get there. Now, right now, if you do visit these stations, the hangars are a little iffy. Docking is still a little questionable. So the easiest thing to do is use the pad. The pads like these are the ones you can see a player 890 parked off to the side, just like I'm going to do with this Carrack. And that's honestly the nicest thing to do. If you're in a smaller ship, you can park right on the pad. If you're in a bigger ship, don't hog the whole pad with this huge ship. Just go ahead and park to the side. When you get out of your ship, remember to close the door. If you have two doors like the airlocks on the 890, close the inner door and the outer door, just in case. So you have your ship there when you need to leave, because the ASOPs are a little risky right now. But I digress. Magnus Station is not bad looking. For the record, I hit the closed door button before I hopped out. There's two closed door buttons on the cargo/vehicle bay. Cargo access / vehicle bay, I guess you could call it. You can close it from the interior, or you can close it from that button on the bottom of the ship. So on these pads, just like normal, Magnus Station is just like other stations. The pad has a door that's on the right side of the pad when you're facing towards the station. That has an elevator inside of it that will take you to the interior. Pads tend to have services, but from what I've been seeing, at least on the previous build, they were not functioning. So we'll see if that's the case this go around as well. Maybe in a later video I'll go back and test that. Nowadays, because I can just quantum there anytime I want on a build, I can test these stations a lot more and the jump points and kind of keep an eye on them. And I'll be sure to update these videos and kind of give you a heads up, like if there's something changing drastically. You can note once again my pet peeve of having to put the helmet into the localized inventory, not on my person. If I'm not wearing a backpack, it is what it is. So I always tend to, well, this is starting to become a tradition. I go over to where the easy habs are, and then I try to note where the elevators are. So I found the elevators, there they are. And then I try to run it back to the ASOP terminal. I tested this on Seraphim, and it was really passed with flying colors. But this one's a little longer. So Magnus Station's not that ideal, but I mean, under 30 seconds, give or take, around 30 seconds. Not too bad. You can see me fiddling around testing these. Like if I was going to slap the ASOP and then hit the elevator, you know, how fast is that truly looking like? So in under a minute, I feel confident that I would be able to get to the ASOPs from get down the elevator, get over the ASOPs, go retrieve a ship, and then get out to the ship, give or take. Now, it depends on how busy the elevators are. If it's a very busy station, this is a cross station, so there may be, if there's an event happening in Magnus, which is a pretty small star system. It's only 3 AU across. It's actually, so that's like just about 60% the size of Stanton. And Magnus is a really weird place. So the biggest thing that we could talk about is the terraforming attempts on Magnus 2, the military ran. So there's probably going to be a lot of legacy items from there. It's a small system. There's a lot of mining involved, so this may be a place for you to go find some really interesting stuff. Um, but there's a lot of legacy things from the old glory days of the mill, or I'm sorry, not glory. Depending on how you view things, messers make messes. Depending on how you view things, the glory days of the empire, or what they advertise as such, or you could view it as wastefulness of the empire and such. The system itself was kind of ignored over time, based on the needs in Killian and some other places, where basically the military started slowly but surely, just they wanted it. They wanted to like Magnus, especially because of how practical it was to defend, but they just couldn't find a use for it. So Magnus 2 has some pretty interesting little ghost towns, for tourism, and it's an interesting place. It's kind of a Wild West with ghost towns. It's pretty interesting. But one of the things I think that's important to note is it does have a legacy with the UEE. It is controlled by the UEE, and so it's kind of a pyro light. And on the rumor mill that is suggested that possibly there will be more than just pyro brought in, or at the very least ushered in quickly thereafter, Terra and Magnus. I feel that there's an interesting place for all of these locations. Terra being a built-up system with actual interesting, really interesting things, especially the Origin homeworld for me. But anyway, this topic is about Magnus, but Magnus as well, kind of being, I think, more of like a Levski feel, although that's in Nyx. Kind of like they are a little bit.
Hi, thanks for coming in.
Do what you want, but at the same time,
If you're not seeing something, you might want to check
there
out
is
our
some
special
sort of lawfulness to it. Your actions will have consequences, and it's with the UEE, so your actions will follow you across those jump points. If you go blasting every single thing in Magnus, eventually word will get back. There will be comm links reestablished, and in theory anyway, your reputation with the UEE will drastically go down, and your reputation amongst other players and NPCs will be worse. You will be considered a very, very bad pirate. And unlike in Pyro, there isn't like a moral gray area thing. You're in UEE space, so your actions have consequences. There's just a lot less ways to enforce it there. I think that's an interesting kind of thing. I think it's going to be a bounty hunter's paradise. And I also think that some players will appreciate that. Instead of having to deal with possible questionable elements that kind of run things over on Ruin Station, like Overlord and the other gangs and affiliated groups that are all part of it. That's the new patron animations, by the way, and voiceover. So he's asking for the beer, and he's upset it's taking so long, and the bartender's stuck in animation loops and won't answer me either. For those who know, AI is basically one of my big tests bartenders are one of my big tests for AI. So this is me right now. It's funny how I just think literally the same way I play. I put in display info because I'm looking at the server FPS. And what I'm noticing is the server FPS is all over the place, as expected. If you have that much animations, AI kind of pathing and thinking and attempting to pull out real items and sell them to that other NPC, the server FPS was probably pretty high at that moment, like high functioning, and then it immediately dropped like a rock. And that's kind of the thing that I've noticed with the with this 3.21 patch cycle, 3.21 PTU patch cycle. Um, the the AI and such is all over the place, and so is the server FPS. I believe they're intrinsically tied together. In the past, we have seen that if it's a very high server FPS, the bunker missions are exciting. The enemies actually take a bit of cover. They communicate and they fight. They fight you as a group. Monster closets are not just monster closets. They pile out, and then they're actually a threat. Almost too much of a threat in some builds, depending on some batch cycles. They almost cheat. But then in other ones, you have, say, 3 or 4 server FPS, and they just stand there and do nothing, or they whiz around and try to shoot you. I wanted to note that this is one of the cooler effects. I think they did a dang good job capturing the nebula feeling. This is much better than, well, it depends on how you feel, but Seraphim Station has like just a big Benny, a giant Big Benny cup with, you know, like their crazy animation and fun stuff. But that's fun. This is much more interesting to me, and it captures the nebula surrounding the station. So there's an oversized station in the middle showing where you are, and then the nebula around you, and how massive it is and how creepy, how crazy it is. Really fun, really fun effect on the ceiling here. I welcome little things like that. And I mean, there's always these little things that catch my eye and make me notice. Like right here, I think this is an older thing, but I noticed this Easter egg, this big red book right here. So there's a movie called Hackers, and I don't know how true it is, but it says, see, mandate for evaluation of trusted computer systems, and it's called The Big Red Book, and it's like 2938 or something, the book says. But in the movie of Hackers, that's a famous book for the hackers to carry around, and one of them is just carrying a book bag full of all these sensitive books that are like outdated but still legacy important. And it just, I think that was like a little Easter egg for that movie. And once again, I don't know how true the actual book was, but this seems to be the SC version of that, and it's an Easter egg of the movie. Now, I will note that there's been quite a few videos and streamers and such talking about that the food and the stores and such are usable in these stations. And I have found that has been a mixed bag. If anything, I've actually found a hard time finding oxygen sometimes. So I take off the helmet because it's less noisy for recording, and also I just, you know, the breathing is a little less when you're not running, at least. Like right now I'm running, but if you're not running, it's not that bad. And one of the things that I have noted is that buying items and such is actually kind of hit and miss. Even that food that's just sitting out, when you quick buy it or hit more info and attempt to buy, either way, it is either out of stock or it just doesn't answer you. And I'm not just talking about the characters, the AI. Oh, I had a request for this. So somebody asked me if these stations have refineries and cargo docks. So the cargo center is like the platform entire thing, and this is me showing my my lack of time I spend in the refineries. So the refinery has two locations in the back that are actually really important. The actual refinery and then the store. And if my memory serves me right, yep, I went in the store first. So this is the store. You can see him trying to talk to me, and then I give up because he's not answering. There's the fun stuff. This is how they all look, but one of the things I thought was interesting was just trying to see if there's new equipment in there. I like that Pembroke suit. Pembroke, remember, it's just extreme temperatures, and it's actually really good for heat especially. So your survival estimates can go up dramatically, if not infinite, in places that normally would like try to kill you in just a minute or two. So it's pretty cool. I was checking this out because I thought like that's an example of like a great way to spend some money. You get like a 3-dayer on a prospector or something. When it's a good patch for that, you can get some stuff done. A Cutleigh Black is another example of a ship that just gets stuff done, especially after the tractor beam changes, which I haven't been able to test yet. They're not in yet, as far as I know. Please put in the comments below if anything on here is not true, or there's some shading to this, like good and bad and otherwise. Please put it in the comments. It's not me trying to bait these things. It's just how it is. You'll help other folks, and I will absolutely get that upvoted and heart it and such to try to get some attention on it. When you have like something that will really enhance people's experience and learning together. This right here is where you get your refining done. If you look here, you can see the percentages for this specific station. I think in particular the refinery will be useful because people will probably want to leave Magnus, but I question like how often you would be leaving a system. Like maybe you could have like a Hull D just quietly squirreling away massive amounts of raw ore or something in container after container, and then you escort it out. I guess I'm just trying to think of a way to do this, and that makes sense because you're not going to go back and forth and like, even if a mole somehow got a jump drive, I don't think they have it, but even if they did, like it just wouldn't make sense. even with its compressed door and a bit bigger cargo holding, it's just not much bigger than a prospector in how much it actually generates. And prospectors have those drop bags. So I think a cargo hauler, dedicated cargo hauler, maybe a hull C, hull D or something, makes sense, maybe. Especially if it's really nice stuff. This was a little Easter egg I wanted to show people, and naturally I couldn't find it. So over here, there's a little room that's in all of these cargo areas, or at least most of them. And the room is nice. It's a nice place to hang out with your friends and show them a little Easter egg. It's pretty cool. This guy, I guess, just got done his union break. But anyway, this is the room right here. When that video game machine works, that'll be pretty fun. And like, you can actually sit here, you can actually hang out. You know, I could see that once again when the video game machine works. Maybe if they get a radio running in here, or somebody just pops up Spectrum. It'd be kind of cool. It's a nice little touch. I like when the devs put stuff in like this, little Easter eggs. Can't wait to see that work. But yeah, nice little room. So once again, Magnus is a very small system. You've got relatively weird legacy. I think for exploration and for mining and refining would be interesting. And that's just how it is. And once again, you're on the edge of UEE space when it comes to like the lawfulness and such, but you're still in UEE space. I think this is a nice alternative for those who have a bad taste in their mouth about Pyro. Because Pyro will be a rough place. You will have to make deals with not so savory people to stay alive there and get some money making going. But Pyro is a much bigger system. So I think everybody can kind of find a corner of it and go hide out and hang out or whatever. But if that's not your speed and you want to stay closer to civilization but still go on these expeditions, Magnus may be the ticket. Where you can just jump through, you can like live and stage at a Stanton as your organization, and then take decent-sized groups across to Magnus for the Friday night, for Friday night fights or Friday night fun or Friday night mining ops, whatever, and get over there, go get some interesting stuff, get some exploration done, get some fights in, get some things in, and then come back. I think that's what kind of the vibe I'm getting with Magnus is. Whereas Pyro is like, you've got to commit, you got to tilt, you got to take a group in, and you got to be willing to brawl, or have friends that are willing to brawl and tussle and such. It's at least the vibe I get. I think, like anything, there'll be videos just like this when these stations drop and their affiliated systems drop, and I'll definitely cover them heavily. And, kind of see where the actual chips fall. I'm curious how well my predictions go, honestly. And Terra is probably the next civilized system that people will want to explore and embrace, and, another Stanton-like system to really sink your teeth into. So if neither one of these systems... that's a nice balance. Having 3 different systems... and 2 of them are more civilized, so to speak. One of them's kind of a gray area, and one of them's just lawless. For lack of a better way to describe it, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. And that's kind of where I feel on that, for better or worse. There's food like normal on the same deck as the habs and hangars. And then you also have your medical as well, like I've already talked about. Look for the C2s on the wall. That's your indicator that you're going the right direction to get to the ships. And because I'm going to a pad, I'm remembering to put the characters things. And especially on PTU, I test everything I can think of. I test different player models. I test different ships. But within reason. I mean, ships with medical is kind of critical for these type of places that just don't have working medical, don't have, stations and such. So there's only a couple options at the moment. Hopefully there'll be more soon. from, you know, from all the hubbub. I feel like the Apollos might get some movement this year, which is kind of would be interesting. It's a nice paint on a Redeemer right there. So EVAing out. Always remember, if you need to EVA, scroll wheel up to go faster, scroll wheel down to go a little slower. And as a pro tip, start slowing down as you get close. Yeah, it can be just as simple as taking your finger off the W key if you don't want to do stuff. Because it's very easy to come in just a little too hot. And unlike a ship, you can't flip and burn, you know, too much. That's another thing about ships. Certain ships have better thruster layouts than others, especially I like ones that can kind of, you get the feel of like where their better thruster layouts are. And have nice big main thrusters. I really like that. I like efficient engines that in a pinch, I can just shift key over and flip and burn if I need to, slow myself down, change directions, you know, quickly and veer off. Leaving a little bit more in on this one. And this is another one of those, please, genuinely, let me know what you think. I think I'm trying to show, you know, a little deeper dive for those who really want to see that. And then up front, when I put the juicy sizzle up front, right, where people, you know, that want to have shorter interest, just want to get right to the point. That's all. Now, we're going on to Pyro again. So you can see another one of those NPC ships they added. Once again, very small ships. I don't know, maybe it's they don't want to clutter the place, or they're worried the AI bigger ships would crash into stuff, or maybe those are just patrollers. I don't know, but they're all over the place. So, Pyro. Now, interestingly, I don't even think I covered the cloud that well in my first video on Pyro, because when I landed there, we were so obsessed with, first of all, it was a big blue disc. It was not looking like this at all. It was like N64 level graphics. It was definitely standing graphics. This is the actual Pyro cloud. So we have now seen all three that are up to date. You can see my cooldown on the Carrack is just extraordinary, like almost too fast, like obscenely fast. I just went across like 30 million kilometers or something. That's already ready to go. Incredible. I'm sure that's gonna get fixed. It's funny, my finger was hovering over the B key, like as if it was gonna do anything. But anyway, the Carrack is in an interesting place. There is a small bug right now where when you go into long quantums, it seems, you can't pivot the ship. You can't tilt the ship. So I have to hop out of the chair, get back in the chair, and then it just works. Once again, trying to show the full PTU experience, and maybe that'll help people is kind of my goal here. It's not me just picking on the PTU, which of course is a build server. Reminder, PTU is constantly getting new builds. It's going to get better and better before it goes to live, and it's meant to be buggy. It's you choose to take part in that, to see the newest content and test it out and hopefully make it better before live. So for whatever reason, the Pyro jump point is the more accessible one for this specific location when you're coming out of the cloud. Goes without saying, but test them both, see which one works for you. When you're coming from Magnus, this is the way to do it. So if you're going on the tour, get them all up on the view. By the way, the double click bug on the mini map has been fixed, where it was crashing you to desktop. You can see getting to the station, beautiful, ridiculously big station with that huge tower and those massive sprawling arms. And boy, is it looking beautiful now. Now, it is worth mentioning the station might have gotten a little smaller since the first day. So it might have been a graphical glitch that these things were just so dang big the first go around, or maybe CIG kind of stepped back a little bit and was like, these things are a little overkill. We should calm down a little bit. But I still like the outlay of the station. I still think it's the biggest station in Stanton. I didn't get out a ruler, but it's pretty dang big. And once again, I think it shows the dedication to the front lines that the UEE has. It's almost like built like an overlooking fortress slash testament to the power of the UEE, or at least they're attempting to flex that feeling. And I strongly suspect at least one Javelin will be parked at any given time in one of those capital class docks just off the 11 o'clock off my Carrack, at the all the way towards the front right, and probably in size 12 torpedo range of the of the gate, just to keep people entertained. You can see that there's a AI turrets going crazy. I'm not quite sure if I have my chat active at this moment, but I think I saw people talking about how the AI the turrets are very, very, very overzealous here at Pyro, and it doesn't shock me. I think they would have infinite ammunition because they're at such a big station, and they will keep attacking and attacking and attacking whenever there's a target nearby. You can note that the station also features turrets that are kind of like Seraphim turrets, where they are exterior of the station. So they have nice, good range of viewing and attacking. Whereas if they are mounted to the station, you could just pop below or above the station to get out of their line of sight and kind of inhibit their ability to hurt you. This is me moving entirely too fast. But you get the point. So we're heading through customs right now, and Pyro's customs has changed not too much, actually, the location, but obviously the ambiance has changed dramatically. So that's your view coming out of customs back towards the station. So again, I can't stress enough how much I love the Carrack's thruster layout. It's one of those ships that you can fly around, and you just feels good. It just feels good to fly. It's really like a pilot's quasi-cap. Can't wait until it gets its modularity, which is probably going to be ages from now, but it is what it is. A few more views of the customs area. And as a reminder, Pyro is a lawless system. There is no UEE representation that we know of in the system. However, there is an older video that I did for Tracker, which is a written lore for bounty hunters. So it's supposed to be a Spectrum dispatch. It's written down, but it's supposed to be like a radio show on Spectrum, or so to speak, or podcast or something. And in lore, specifically made by CIG. And in Tracker, they note that Overlord, which is the biggest, strongest gang in power in Pyro, is nobody knows anything about them. They're very, very, very to themselves, and they're very exclusive, and they basically look down upon all the other groups. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a plot line where Xenothreat and the whole gang and everything get together, and the Pyro's different gangs all get together and really just wail on Overlord until they can take him down. But one of the other interesting things is Pyro is not so out of control as people think. You have to think about this very simply. If you have a bunch of people that all come into a system, and you have these vigilantes and the gangs of Pyro and all these monsters and whatever else, and you you have all these different groups, you're going to have to deal with the fact that, plain and simple, they're just the new power. Just like UEE has different political influences inside of it, and the alien species all do their own thing too. Whenever you have an emptiness of power, more power comes in. So that's kind of my short little roundabout way to say it. You know, Pyro is really a weird place. And Pyro 2 in particular is the place I'm most excited about, where you have the massive failed corporation of Pyrotechnic Amalgamated and all their ridiculous building of massive mines and such that are now empty. And if the rumors are to be believed, there is a prophet of Pyro who will speak to you when you're lost inside of those mines in certain places. Some people believe that a little too much. We have gang leaders that have lost their lives in these places, just chasing after the prophet of Pyro and its wisdom. You know, there's a long history of Pyro being a really rough place. And I think that a lot of the things, like Ruin Station, like the failed station at Pyro 4, I think they're going to be really interesting to explore. And that's just scratching the surface. But the point is, right now, there's a lot of good reasons why there's a lot of big stuff that's designed to keep Pyro inside Pyro, and the UEE does not want them here. They do not want them sitting in Stanton. They certainly are going to quarantine as best they can the overall Pyro area. See that big, nasty, terrifying glow? We saw a little hint of this the first road through, but Sultan, if you're watching this, that's how it looks now. And you can see that interesting, like, you know, the combination of, like, Stanton almost fighting Pyro, like the big glowing areas of an angry Stanton and an angry Pyro fighting each other. So if you are watching this still anytime in October, happy Halloween, happy Day of the Vara, the Star Citizen version of it. I would say that there's some pretty cool paints up. Ships are what they are. I really don't have too much of an opinion on these ships. You know, if you're a Corsair player or Cat user or something, they're useful ships. But the paints themselves, I will comment on. The ghoulish green paint job is actually fantastic. I used the ghoulish green for the Cuddy on my Cuddy Red. When I had regen, I used it for years, actually. And I really appreciate it. It's got this weird fool's gold effect on it that looks really beautiful in game, the way it renders out, especially in the sun. So I don't know, but if you get a chance to check out the website, check that out. Also, check out, I'll put a link below to the right now the contest, where they're not contest, it's more of just an in-game event. Keep it simple. You go around and you loot different masks, and if you get them all, you will be able to get a forum post, a little icon for your forum post in the Spectrum. And that might not sound like much, but remember that those little pips at one point will likely come into the game. So you got to remember that over time, Spectrum in game and Spectrum on the website are kind of become more and more integrated. So if you get both versions of the Neville Lot masks and all 6 of the bear variants, the goofy bear looking things, you can earn a Spectrum badge. It's something to keep in the back of your mind. And yeah, you can also find even the Snarling Vandal, which is a classic that I have. I also have one of the Neville Lot masks, maybe both, I don't know. But Neville Lot masks are a whole nother ball game. In the cards at the end of this, I'll include my Neville Lot video. That's a lore spoken video. I should probably HD that at some point, but I really had a lot of fun with that one. And it's very spooky. So if you enjoy this season, happy holidays, happy Day of the Vara, happy Halloween, whatever, you know, all of that. And if you are not so inclined, get excited for CitizenCon. There's something for everybody, I think, right now. And those events for the masks, as I understand them, are in live, not in the PTU, but the PTU, of course, has these locations that are no longer need coordinates. For the past couple builds, they have been, you can simply use your quantum beacons and go straight to them without even a player having to be kind to give you a quantum beacon even. You can just go there and explore them yourself. And they are pretty dang cool. I think you should go at least once. Just see this, because this is a major part of Star Citizen history right here. I think that the verse is going to not be the same after these. And yeah, I know these are just part of the process, but it's pretty dang cool. Alright, so that's it for me. Thank you again for sticking around. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and comment below if you want what your opinion is and what I can do to change things, and if you just like it. And once again, I make these as much for you as I do for myself. So, thanks.